Today, first sense and pattern, not first sense in general terms, the precise role of the first sense within the law of pattern, and with it the central quality of the thinker who operates from this law, metaphysical visuality, the inner sight, the capacity to perceive the metaphysical pattern before it physically appears. This is the 7-minute daily focus, day 147 of 365, to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of pattern, first sense and pattern. Pause for a moment. 7 days in, the second half of this cycle begins. The pattern is established, understood in its nature, its completeness, its ground, and its stability. Today, first sense and pattern, not first sense in general terms, the precise role of the first sense within the law of pattern, and with it the central quality of the thinker who operates from this law, metaphysical visuality, the inner sight, the capacity to perceive the metaphysical pattern before it physically appears. Pause. The first sense is metaphysical perception. You understand this from the laws that have come before. The first sense perceives the law of actuality. It perceives primary reality, constant present reality, directly, without the confirmation of the five senses, without the report of the physical world. Now understand its precise function within the law of pattern. The first sense perceives the metaphysical pattern. It sees within, it perceives the thought and the pattern it contains, before the pattern has produced a single physical sign. Before the physical world has confirmed anything, the first sense perceives the pattern as real, as complete, as present. This capacity is metaphysical visuality. Thought is within, effect is without, thinking stands between. Pause for a moment. Metaphysical visuality is the inner sight of the thinker, not imagination, not the projection of a desired image upon a mental screen, not creative visualization in the ordinary sense. Metaphysical visuality is the actual perception of a metaphysical reality. The same way the five senses perceive physical reality directly, the first sense perceives metaphysical reality directly. Metaphysical visuality is the first sense perceiving the pattern, seeing what is not yet physically visible, not imagining it into being, perceiving it as it already is, within. Pause for a moment. Consider the contrast with the five senses. The five senses see what has already physically expressed. They report on the physical. They confirm what is already there. This is their nature, and it is entirely appropriate for the domain they govern. The law of the physical, secondary reality, time, space, and matter. But the metaphysical pattern does not yet exist in the domain of the five senses. It exists in primary reality, and the five senses have no access to primary reality, so they cannot see the pattern, cannot confirm it, cannot tell the thinker that it is real. Only the first sense can do this. Only metaphysical visuality perceives what the five senses cannot. Pause for a moment. This is why the morning practice is the most important act of the thinker's day. Before the five senses have opened fully on the physical world, before conditions have delivered their report, before secondary reality has set the agenda, the thinker opens the first sense. They activate metaphysical visuality. They perceive the pattern within, not as something to be confirmed by what follows, as something already real, already complete, already present. And from that perception, thinking is directed upon what the first sense has perceived, upon the pattern, upon the thought that contains it, and the development proceeds from that clear inner sight. Pause. Metaphysical visuality deepens with practice. The thinker who opens the first sense consistently each morning trains the inner sight. it becomes clearer, more immediate, less dependent on stillness to activate, more present through the day. In the beginning, the practice requires deliberate stillness and intention. The outer world is louder, the five senses are more immediate. The inner sight requires effort to open, but through consistent practice, the first sense becomes more accessible, the inner pattern more immediately perceived. Metaphysical visuality becomes the natural first movement of the thinker. Before looking without, the thinker looks within and sees, pause. And what the thinker with developed metaphysical visuality sees within is not vague, not approximate, not a general sense of something desired. A precise metaphysical pattern, the complete structure of what will physically express, already whole, already real, perceived clearly, and from that clear perception, thinking aligns with the pattern naturally, without force, without effort, because the pattern is clearly seen, and what is clearly seen within is what thinking naturally holds. This is developed metaphysical visuality. The clarity of the inner sight produces the steadiness of the inner thinking, not doubtfulness, not struggle, not force. You are not pushing the seed, not pressure. You are not trying to make it happen, but steadfastness, focused. Remain aligned with what is within. Do not be moved by what is physically seen, because what is physically seen is always secondary to what is unfolding. Now, the affirmation for day 147. Pause for a moment. I open my first sense. I activate metaphysical visuality. I perceive the pattern within, not through the five senses, not by waiting for physical confirmation, through the inner sight that perceives what is already metaphysically real. The pattern is already complete. The first sense perceives it clearly. I do not imagine the pattern into being. I perceive what is already there, already whole, already present. And from that clear perception, thinking aligns with the pattern. The ground is correct. The development proceeds. And because the inner sight is clear, the pattern unfolds toward its physical expression. And what unfolds must physically express. Remember, by design, by focus.